Good Tuesday afternoon, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille Show. We are live in Charlottesville, across the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille Network. Thank you kindly for joining us on the Tuesday edition of this program. This show brought to you by Skooma Boutique Dispensary. Look, folks, the best dispensary in Charlottesville, Virginia, in Central Virginia is Skooma. It's Skooma Boutique Dispensary on the downtown mall in Charlottesville, and it's not even close. It ain't even close. Skooma Boutique Dispensary with certificates of analyses for everything in the store. I am fired up today. If you watch this program, you know I am a free market guy. If you watch this program and you've heard stories of my entrepreneurial journey, you realize that perhaps the business that I own, one of them, VMV Brands, the advertising agency, turns 14 years old in May of this year. 14. And in those 14 years, I have taken one vacation in 14 years because of grinding and building a business. A vacation I took with my wife on our honeymoon, and we returned from our honeymoon knocked up, baby in tow, and ready for the best, hardest thing ever called parenthood. I start with this because after 14 years in May of running these businesses, life today is very different than when I started life as an entrepreneur 14 years ago. When I launched the business, I've said this so many times on this network, I had zero money because I invested my entire life savings into the company. I was eating double cheeseburgers at McDonald's that were $1.03, or I was going to the Panda Garden buffet on Emmett Street. It's no longer there, with Ziploc bags, a $5.95 lunch buffet, and scraping food off of my plate into Ziploc bags and putting them in a backpack so I could eat food for the next couple days and also feed my dog Lucy a brown Chow Chow German Shepherd mix. Money was so tight after investing the life savings into this company that I had to welcome two friends into the Villas at Southern Ridge condo that I was living in, that the business was run within. And these two friends lived in rooms alongside me. It was a 3-bedroom. And their rent, which was below market, I threw them bones. $400 each, they paid $800 total. Basically kept me from defaulting on the mortgage. If I had not have rented those 2 rooms, I would have defaulted on the mortgage, because when I launched the business, it was during a financial and real estate recession, depression in Central Virginia. That was 2008. The proverbial you-know-what had hit the fan. No clients for 6 months. Today, 90-hour weeks, no vacations, working 6-7 days a week, thinking about the businesses every single day. Every single day. The scenario is different. They're humming. I have rental tenants. The condo is now a rental investment. I own a good chunk of the Macklin building on Market Street in downtown Charlottesville. There's 24 tenants in the portfolio. And I will never feel guilty or apologize for success. Never will I feel guilty or apologize or say I'm sorry or feel bad for being successful, because I busted my tail for it. And I sacrificed when others would not sacrifice in a same type of clip or frequency. Vacations, nights out, vehicles, you name it. I'm a free market guy because I understand if you bust your tail and if you work hard and if you put your mind to it and you have a little bit of luck, things can work out for you. If you are the best trash collector in Charlottesville and you work hard at it, you're going to do well and you're going to find some success. It may not happen overnight, but it could happen. If you're the best window cleaner in Charlottesville and you bust your tail and you're willing to grind and you put in the effort, you will find success. It may not be overnight, but you eventually will find success. If you are the best awning cleaner, detailer of cars, carpenter, hardwood floor installer, painter, and you work hard, you will find success. It may not be overnight, but success comes with effort, dedication, focus, and hard work. And here's where I'm going with this. There is a portion of the American population, the Virginian population, the Central Virginian population, the Albemarle Countyan population, the Charlottesvillian population that likes to pull people down, that likes to make people feel guilty for pursuing for-profit business endeavors. There's a portion of our local population that likes to make folks look bad for grinding and for making a good life for themselves and their family. I don't know if it's jealousy. I don't know if it's a fear of risk-taking. I don't know if it's just straight up bad will. But when you grind and you roll up your sleeves like I'm doing right now, and you bust your ass and you sacrifice, and you do well by yourself and your family, guess what? You should be able to do what you want with your hard-earned dollars. And we saw this and we see this in so many different ways in this community. We see it literally just yesterday. A group of private citizens pooled their money together to wrap the Dewberry Hotel, the scary skeleton in the sky, with a art music motif wrap. A press conference was held yesterday on the downtown mall. Counselors, Charlottesville were there. Landlords, developers, small business owners, they were there. And $45,000 was the money spent on this wrap to make the scary skeleton in the sky, the white elephant of Charlottesville, look a little bit better. I see on social media, Twitter specifically, a gaggle of people heckling, ripping, demeaning, harassing, insulting, putting down the effort. Perhaps it's the socialists in Charlottesville that are doing this. In fact, it is. But you know what? When you sacrifice so much and you choose to spend the return on investment of that sacrifice, your monetary gains, on wrapping a building on the downtown mall, or by building a world-class squash facility on Ivy Road, or by donating revenue to endeavors that drive engagement on the downtown mall, that is your prerogative. It's something you are entitled to do. We've got to get over this BS mindset of putting people down for being successful because of hard work. There is nothing wrong, nor should there ever be, to running a business in the black as a for-profit entity. Somewhere in the last 5 years, and I think it unfortunately is a byproduct of perhaps the most polarizing president in U.S. history, Donald Trump, somewhere we as Americans, Virginians, Central Virginians, Charlottesvillians, Albemarle Countyans, some of us are choosing to stigmatize folks who are in business to make a profit, and it needs to stop. Friends of CVille are getting lambasted on Twitter yesterday and today, lambasted for the sole reason of allocating $45,000 to wrapping the scary skeleton in the sky with artwork, instead of utilizing that $45,000 for pursuits or endeavors that meets their vision or mission of the downtown mall. If you would like to pursue your vision or mission of the downtown mall, earn the revenue to allocate toward it through hard work, sacrifice, and effort. Do not demean and minimize a collection of citizens who are trying one step at a time to make downtown better. And we all understand the mall has a lot of work to get to the point we need it to get to. Public restrooms, inclusion and approachability for a demographic that is not well represented, black and brown people. Yes, that must be a focal point, prioritized and emphasized. Yes, benches for the mall must be prioritized and emphasized. Yes, a more welcoming environment for all economic levels of Charlottesville should be prioritized and emphasized. But demeaning and putting down the group of people that are trying to do it one step at a time is not seeing the forest through the trees, and frankly, a reflection of your inner jealousy, your inner fear of risk-taking, and your inner character. I will never, ever nor should anyone feel guilty for working hard and being successful. And if that hard work and risk-taking and effort offers an opportunity to create charitable allocations, then guess what? It's our prerogative to allocate those dollars how we see fit. And whether those charitable allocations are to rescue animals, autism efforts, squash facilities and data science schools, wrapping buildings with artwork, efforts to beautify the downtown during holidays with lights and Christmas wreaths, efforts to build the brand we call Charlottesville, that is our prerogative. Because it's the revenue we generated through our sweat equity and hard work. I'm tired of the demeaning nature that comes from a group of people and pointed toward a group of others that are financially well off. The Queen of Keswick, Joanne Mackey, for-profit businesses create jobs, pay rents, and drive revenue. Twitter is a nasty spot. Look at the mask issue. Just let people live now within the law. When I wear my fur on really cold nights, I am ostracized. It's one reason I stay away. It goes both ways. What happened to live and let live? My coat is the fruit of hard work. You should see where I grew up, not where I live now. Thank you, Joanne, Queen of Keswick. Dude, you know what it's like to have your back so far and so against the wall that you're not even sure you're going to have something to eat for a couple of days, or your place might get taken away from you, or that you're close to 2-3 months behind on your electric bill. Because when you allocate your entire life savings to a business you believe in and you don't get any clients for a handful of months because you're launching in a recession, that's what I felt 14 years ago. And now, every day I get up out of bed and put my freaking pants on or drive my kid to school, our kid to school, or walk in this building, or turn on the TV to CNBC, or get on this show, I remember the adversity and hardship. Every day I remember it. And it continues to drive me. And I bet you it will always will. And I hope as a father that I can somehow channel and pass that motivation, that inspiration, that adversity and hardship, and channel it somehow and pass it along as a motivator to our son. One of my biggest fears as a parent, literally one of my biggest fears as a parent, is that our son will be so much a byproduct of a successful scenario that his outlook on life will be clouded and convoluted. I will work and bust my tail to make sure our 3-year-old, once he matures and gets older, realizes that what he has now and what he will have tomorrow was earned and not given, and it transpired through hardships that many will not ever experience. Because if I can convey that mentality and message to him, it will motivate, drive, and inspire him in ways that it did me. I just don't understand that. Vitriol. Vitriol is the word?
Vitriol.
Vitriol? Thank you. Can you go to a 2-shot?
Okay.
Tell me when we're there.
All right.
I don't even understand the vitriol and the animosity and the disdain.
Those that can do, those that can't act like whiny little you-know-whats on Twitter.
I don't even understand it. Like putting down people for making an effort to try to do the beautification. I'm like shaking right now. The beautification of a crappy building? It's not the whole project. It's one step. Mm-hmm. It's a ceremonial first step of efforts to be made. Yet they're getting lambasted by name by this group.
Sadly, there are people out there that just, I think, thrive on pointing out other people's flaws, whether or not they truly exist.
I just do not even comprehend the need. Like I am so siloed, or maybe focused, razor sharp focused on grinding. I don't have the equity or the time of day or the effort left at the end of 13 or 14 hours of this to go and even do this to others because of financial gain or effort.
Well, to be fair, you comment on quite a lot of things that go on, but you're right. Some people just, I don't know what it is. They feel a need to be in everyone else's business, and the question is, what are you doing? If you're gonna post a nasty comment on Twitter, well, what are you doing? Where are you putting your money? How are you helping?
It's flabbergasting.
Yeah, it's those of us that are just living our lives are a little bit confused by people that are constantly just, spewing vitriol on Twitter. It's like, go out and actually do something.
Yeah.
Get off Twitter. Stop. It's easy to point at other people on social media.
And the mentality that we will just find new revenue for stuff to do by taxing and taxing and taxing and taxing and taxing citizenship, citizenry. I have a hard time with that word. That mentality of we'll just tax the folks in the community a little more to get the money for these efforts. Dude, get over it. No.
You know, there is nothing stopping those people from giving more in taxes. There is no cap to what you can give the government. So while most of us are trying to keep our money so that we can spend it on ourselves and our families and our neighborhoods and our communities, if you want to give more money than the government is asking for, feel free to do so.
So that's how I wanted to start today. Legitimately, the efforts of Friends of CVille that come from a goodwill place, a first step, a ceremonial olive branch, are being lambasted on social.
So just to be clear, they being lambasted for
The
spending
45K
money?
should have been spent in a way that they see better.
Well,
And the 45K was in large part outside of the 10,000 from the Dewberries. So 35.
and who cares
Revenue
how somebody
contributed by
spends the
private
money?
citizens who earned it.
Exactly. It's none of your business how they spend their money. People spend their own money every day.
Spend your own money, if you want to make it better, on benches and bathrooms
Yeah.
and inclusionary efforts. You want to make it better, spend your own money on benches and bathrooms and inclusionary efforts. We all realize we need benches and bathrooms and inclusionary efforts. Everyone realizes that. But if you continue to tax citizenship for schools and benches and bathrooms and inclusionary efforts, you won't need to have inclusionary efforts anymore because the community will be wealthy and homogeneous. Am I reading this incorrectly? Thank you, Alex. No from the green room. And today I came here to talk about today being the first day where masks are optional in schools. And Albemarle High School, its student body, a portion of it, is holding a protest where they literally walked out of school today because of this mask optional option. Students at Albemarle High School left classrooms in a collective bargaining, protesting type of effort, walked out the doors, the ones that demanded that mask be on all the time. I was going to talk about that. I was going to talk today about vaccination centers, testing and vaccination centers. The Blue Ridge Health District, the health district that is the North Star of the pandemic in our region. Facilities will shut down on March 12th. Testing and vaccination centers will shut down on March 12th. A positive sign, an endemic sign for COVID in this community. I was going to talk about Virginia Republicans ashing a bill, ashing synonymous for killing, a bill on marijuana retail. And while the headline indicates that is potentially bad news, it is not in fact. The rejection of the bill by Republicans, a huge victory for small and medium-sized cannabis companies in the Commonwealth. The bill in its form The bill that was crushed in its current form was biased and favored out-of-state companies instead of incentivizing, prioritizing, and championing Virginia-based companies. You want to do something from an inclusionary standpoint? How about this? Marijuana arrests, historically, from a 4-to-1 standpoint, featured men and women of color. Men and women of color were 4 times more likely to get popped by law for cannabis and weed possession, smoking, distribution, whatever you want to call it, when compared to their white counterparts who are doing the same. You want some inclusionary efforts that literally will help generations to come? Figure out a way to get retail cannabis licenses in the hands of black and brown people that were negatively impacted by this plant and this air quote drug for decades. That's a way for positive progress. I was going to talk on this show about Jaden Gardner and Franklin likely returning to the University of Virginia, the Indiana transfer, Franklin, Armand, the ECU transfer, Gardner, Jaden. I was going to ask the question if Kihei Clark was going to return and beg him to come to grounds for another year, because this scrappy 5'8" point guard with the heart of a lion is not only the face of the program, not only a national champion, but would be an asset to the team next year when our roster will be deep, plentiful, and bountiful. I was going to talk all these topics, but instead I get on the Twitterverse this morning and see people chastising people for allocating their hard-earned dollars. All right. I'd like to get a friend of the program and a valued voice and perspective on set now, if possible. And I'm sorry I'm getting him here a little late. His name is Alex Urpí. Alex, if you can join us, I'd like to get your perspective on this. This guy is the CEO of Emergent Financial Services, someone I'm proud to call a friend, a perspective that is measured, relied upon, and the co-star of Today y Mañana, Thursdays at 10:15 a.m. on the I Love CVille Network. Where do you want to start with this? I heard you say no from the green room.
Yeah, it's tough. It reminds me, there's a very old speech by, very famous speech by Theodore Roosevelt about the man in the arena. That's very easy to criticize the man in the arena, saying, well, he should have done this, oh, he's not doing well enough. But the only person in Theodore Roosevelt's eyes who should be lauded is the man in the arena, because he's actually the one doing something. He's actually the one in the arena. And that until you've stepped into that arena, you need to be, not that you cannot criticize, but you need to be measured. You need to be respectful. You need to be understanding of the fact that you yourself are not in that arena. And you have to laud the fact that at least he is trying to do something, even if you yourself may have done something different.
I mean, when did, okay, let's just use the word. When did hardworking capitalists become stigmatized as blood-sucking piranhas?
It's very surprising, especially small business, because there was a time when, okay, of course, obviously back in the late 1800s, you had very large capitalists that were stigmatized as that. But for the history of America, like the small business owners, which is what we're talking about here, We're not talking about Costco
No.
and Walmart and mega corporations. We're talking about people who are successful in our local
In Charlottesville.
community in Charlotte.
Yeah.
Right? And it amazes me because if you think about what is profit and success in capitalism, but the adding of value. If I take apples and labor and machines and I put them together and I sell it for applesauce, if I sell that applesauce for more than I paid for the apples, and you buy that applesauce from me for more than I paid for the more than you would pay for apples, that means that I gave you value. That's why you're buying it. I gave you value, and and I am therefore compensated. I'm rewarded for that value because a lot of these business owners, what they do is they took a bunch of different resources and they put them together and they produced something else that obviously other people thought added value to our lives. We purchased their goods, we purchased their services, and as a result, they receive compensation in the form of great value. And it's shocking that that is somehow an issue at this point.
I'm going to relay. Well said. Alex Urpí, well said. I love when you come on the show. Well said.
Thank you.
I'm going to relay a conversation on perceived value to the listeners. This is a conversation on perceived value. Mm-hmm. Notes that I put down on my iPhone in the Notes app. Okay? A customer asked a contractor friend of mine how much it would cost to do a project. My friend gave the customer a proposal of $4,500. The customer responded, "Wow, that seems extremely high, $4,500. My friend, he responded this way, "What do you think is a reasonable price for this job?" The customer asked and then answered, $2,500. You're overcharging me $2,000. My friend then responded to the customer by saying this, "Okay, then I invite you to do it yourself." The customer said to my buddy, my homie, "Well, I don't know how to do this." My friend, who's telling me this over cold beers, responded like this, "All right. Then how about for $2,500, I will teach you how to do it. So besides saving you $2,000, you will learn a valuable skill set that will benefit you in the future." The customer said, "That sounds amazing. That sounds absolutely amazing, Tim. Let's go ahead and do it." My buddy responded like this to the customer, "All right. To get started, you're going to need some tools. You will need a chop saw, a table saw, a cordless drill, a bit set, a router, a skill saw, a jigsaw, a tool belt, and a hammer, some nails, a tool belt to do this work." The customer answered, "But Tim, I don't have any of those tools, and I cannot justify buying all those tools for one job." The customer then said, "What do I do?" My friend said, "Okay, Timmy, well, for an additional $300, you can rent my tools from me for this project. $300, I'll let you rent these tools from me." That's a pretty darn good price.
That's a good deal for all
That's
those
a great deal
tools.
for all those tools. The customer said, "Okay, that's fair. The new total is $2,800. My friend responded, Timmy, my buddy, said, "Great, we will start the project on Monday." The customer said, "Wait, I work Monday through Friday. I can't start the project on Monday. I'm only available on the weekends." Timmy, my homie, my buddy, said, "Well, if you want to learn from me, then you're going to need to work when I work. This project will take 3 days or so you're going to have to take 3 days off of work to finish this project." The customer said, "Tim, that means I'm going to have to sacrifice my pay for 3 days or use my vacation time." Tim, my homie, said, "That's true. Remember, when you do a job yourself, you need to account for unproductive factors." The customer said, "What exactly is an unproductive factor?" Timmy, my homie, responded, doing a job completely from start to finish includes time spent to plan the project, pick up materials, travel time, gas, setup time, cleanup, waste disposal, amongst other things. That is all in addition to the actual project itself. And speaking of materials, we're going to start on Monday at 6 a.m. and you're going to meet me at the lumber yard because that's when it opens. The customer said to my homie Timmy, 6 a.m.? My normal workday doesn't start until 8, and I have to get my kids ready for school and help my wife with their lunches and get them to school on time. Timmy said, well, then you're in luck. My plan is to start on the deck by 8 a.m., but we do have to start at 6 a.m. to get the materials loaded and delivered to your job site. The customer said, you know, I'm realizing that a lot more goes into your job than what a customer sees when the project starts. I'm going to take the $4,500 that you quoted me initially, instead of taking 3 days off from work, burning 3 days of vacation time, not being able to drive my kid to and from school, having to learn something from start to finish when I have 2 left hands and can't even hammer a nail into a block of wood. And that, my friends, is a life lesson we all need to learn. And Alex Urpí, that, my friend, is something I try to showcase on this show. That it took Timmy, my friend, decades to get to this level of skill set, to produce at a $4,500 clip. And that effort should not be demeaned because he wants to make some money on the effort that took him decades to accumulate and accrue.
Exactly. No, and plus it's a matter of opportunity cost, right? The cost to you to do something yourself is giving up exactly the next most productive thing you could do. And so he too has an opportunity cost, right? The small business owner has an opportunity cost. Their opportunity cost is the next most productive thing they could be doing. So if a small business owner could be making $100,000 a year working for another company, and then they go out and work for themselves, they need to be compensated accordingly. And sometimes that compensation can come in the form of time, that you have more flexibility, you get to spend more time with your family. But point being is, you don't get to stimp out on the small business owner and say, well, because it's profit for you, and it would have been employment income otherwise, that somehow that is immoral. The profit is immoral, but if you got paid $100,000 to do it for a different company, now it's moral. It doesn't work that way. The small business owner is the one putting a lot of risk on the line, and they get compensated accordingly.
Well said. Well said. When did the mentality shift from demeaning success to then taxing the base that has accrued the success through hard work?
That's always a challenge. I think part of it comes historically, right? I think it all depends on how you choose to look at taxation, right? If you choose to look at it as an exchange, ergo, the government provides me certain things, and in exchange, I provide them with some of what I have earned, then I think that I think leads to a healthier mentality. But I think sometimes over time, you begin to look at it the reverse. In other words, well, here are the things that I would like to get done. What can I get from other people to transfer those things? Because no one ever, as Judah wisely pointed out, right? When we argue for higher taxes, when anyone argues for higher taxes, you're not thinking of yourself. You may say, oh, I want to pay higher taxes. I can afford to pay higher taxes. But you usually are not thinking of yourself, because if you were only thinking of your own taxes, you could easily write a check to the government and say, here, take some extra money from me. I want to be generous today. You're usually saying, I want to tax other people. And that's the issue that sometimes arises, I think. It's very easy to do the reverse, as we've talked about before, reverse budgeting. Instead of saying, here's what we're getting from people. How can we be the best stewards of this? It's tempting to be like, well, here's what I would like to get done. Where can I go and get more money from people? And it doesn't work that way. A small business owner can't do that. A small business owner might say, I would love to take a 4-week vacation in the south of France how can I don't milk my clients
Yeah.
to don't do it? The clients would be like, goodbye.
Right.
Goodbye. What do you mean you're going to raise my prices 50% so that you can take a 4-week vacation in the south of France?
Yeah.
Right? And yet with local government and all stages of government, we often do that. We'll say, well, I would like to do this, and whose money can I go get? Like, and it's usually not me, right? It's usually someone higher up the chain than us. You know, we'll go to the millionaires and say, oh, they have some extra money. The millionaire will be like, well, the billionaires got some extra money.
Yeah, the 10 millionaires.
Yeah.
The 10 millionaires like, well, check out that 100
Check
millionaire.
out-
That 100 millionaire is like, look at that 500 millionaire. That 500 millionaire goes, look at those billionaires. Those billionaires go, look at Elon Musk.
Yeah. Look at 40 billion, look at 50 billion. So there's always someone else that you say, well, he doesn't need all that money. I need mine, but he doesn't need. It's like the old Milton Friedman line when he was asked about greed. He was a great economist. Asked about greed, he says, well, it's always the other guy who's greedy. I'm not greedy, it's always the other guy.
What was your take? I thought it was the 45K. 10 from the Dewberries, so 35. To wrap the scary skeleton in the sky was great. It was a ceremonial first step.
Exactly, and I think that's the important thing. It's very easy to criticize first steps, right? And it would be one thing if they said, here we go, wrapping this, mission accomplished, goodbye, see you in 10 years when the building collapses, right? No, it's a first step, and it's saying, hey, this looks like a third world country building, because it really does. And unfortunately, it sends a message, right? I think the issue is having something like that there sends a message that the downtown mall it's a negative message, right? It's a message of decay, a message of sadness, a message of, look at how things didn't work out, look at things that are struggling. And what you want to send, right? The message you want to send with the downtown mall is come here.
Yeah.
This is a thriving place. This is a fantastic place. There's artwork, there's beauty, there's shops, there's music. And so anything you can do to incrementally get there, right? But it's obviously that we know that there's a whole bunch of factors that go into why that building hasn't been completed. But if you can't solve the factors all in one day, at least you can make it look a little better.
Thank you.
And we've used lipstick on a pig before, right? But if you're stuck with the pig, you might as well put some lipstick on it. Because you still gotta, if you can't get rid of the pig, don't make it look as bad.
And I really want to emphasize this. One of our valuable and trusted viewers and listeners is Carol Thorpe. And Carol Thorpe initially had the lipstick on the pig analogy. But she did it from let's hope this doesn't distract council from finishing or carrying through the rest of the efforts for the Dewberry building. What she was saying is completely not what I'm highlighting here. Her whole point, Carol Thorpe, the queen of Jack Jewett, and I hope you're listening, Carol, her entire point was, let's not let this wrap of the scary skeleton in the sky let leadership off the hook with the building. They got to keep moving forward. Her point was not this money should be spent on this and not that. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly. No, she was making an excellent point. In other words, when you take a first step to resolve something, you can't just take the first step and say, okay, now mission accomplished. It's not quite as bad. I give up, right? You take that first step, but you keep in mind what the long-term goal is.
Yes.
Like you take the first step, you beautify this part of the downtown mall that was clearly an eyesore, but you keep in mind the long-term goal, which is that downtown will be revitalized, that the building will eventually come to fruition in some way, shape, or form. It won't be a husk, that something will be thriving there. And that's your long-term goal, to have a thriving downtown mall. But in the meantime, you can at least make it slightly more beautiful, encourage people to even incrementally want to come there more.
The queen of Earlysville, Vanessa Parkhill, has this comment. Get ready for this. Vanessa Parkhill, you make this show better.
Yeah, she's always a great contributor.
Why do people sell drugs? Because of their race? Absolutely not. Because they see it as a way to make a better buck than they can by sweeping floors somewhere? Possibly. Think Frank Lucas, the character played by Denzel Washington in the movie American Gangster. That man was brilliant, but he was a criminal. What if those skills were applied to a legitimate business? Our schools and government need to partner with families of all backgrounds to help inspire students in a way that encourages students to realize their full potential in legitimate professions. Then the government should promote the growth of a variety of businesses to employ the skilled workforce and eliminate what, for some, becomes generational dependence on government.
No, it's that, and I think what she's highlighting there, which I love that comment, Vanessa, is the power of small business to overcome generational poverty. And which is often, what have we repeated lots of times? We've always said the number one factor of generational growth, generational inheritance, generational wealth building from 1950 to the current was home ownership. However, if you do not currently own a home, the first thing that you are going to have a great chance of passing on generational wealth to your children is going to be a small business. That's something you can build up. That's something you can build up with hard work. You can build up with often less capital, right, than to attempt to purchase a home and push it forward. You can pass on that great generational wealth to your children, and before you know it, they will all have homes, and they will begin passing on generational wealth in the form of home ownership. But small business is just such a powerful tool because it can be inherited, it can be passed on, and you can pass on not just, the beauty is you don't have to just pass on wealth, you're passing on also a way of life. There's a great line in the old Christmas Carol where the Fezziwig says to another gentleman, he says, one doesn't spend one's lifetime building up a business just for the sake of money. It's to pass on and preserve a way of life that one knew and loved. And it's something to small business owners, we love what we do.
Yeah.
And we love the idea of passing that on. And sometimes our children go on to do different things, right? But sometimes that one or two says, you know what, I love this too. And I'm going to keep it going. I mean, how many of the small businesses here are multi-generational in Charlottesville? And they love what they do, and by doing it, they pass on not just wealth, they pass on that way of life that they know and love.
God, I love you. You said it better than I could have.
Thank you.
Dude, I would not be working 70 to 90 hours a week if I didn't love this.
Exactly.
If I hated this, I wouldn't be working 2 jobs every week. That's essentially what 70 to 90 hours a week are.
Exactly.
I love this. I love this. And I work because I'm motivated because of our son and my wonderful wife. And I want a legacy and something lasting that I can potentially give. And not give without him having to work for it.
No.
But give as an opportunity. Should you choose to pursue, this could be yours, but you will take these steps to earn it.
Exactly. What? And you instill, therefore, the
I
powerful
can't wait
sense
till
of
you become a
gratitude.
dad.
Oh, thank you.
You're going to be
I'm
an
looking forward
amazing
to it
father.
as well. One day, I'm looking forward. Because it's also you instill in him, I was going to say, the sense of gratitude, which is what also I think propels you forward as a human being. Like my mom, in fact, Mrs. Urpí was sending me, well, I think she was also watching, sending me like, when you were talking about hard work and the people that are sacrificed and the sacrifices that go into where you are, she was reminding me that my nonna, so my mom's mom, sewed thousands of sleeves together at night to buy food.
Yeah.
My abuelita came to this country, so my abuelita, my dad's parents, came to this country with $10. And they worked weekends, they sewed, they did whatever they need to. They worked nights, sometimes they would come home like 9, 10, 11 p.m. at night after having, and they're working with their hands. Right, to make it so that their children, so that my father and my mother could then go on and do more, so that now he and his sons own a small business. And you need to instill the sense of gratitude so that you then you say, if they worked that hard to get me where I am, I need to work just as hard, if not more, to get my children where they need to go as human beings. Because yeah, you could make a boatload of money and gift your son $1 million and say, hey, congratulations, you're set. But you will do so much. You're doing so much more for him by instilling in him the sense of gratitude, the importance of work ethic, that he will be a better human being, regardless of how valuable, VMV Brands is. He will be a better human being, a better man for having learned these things from you.
Mrs. Urpí, your boys, I love. Your man, I love. And we have a similar a similar story. And last time I talked about this, Alex Urpí showed me his true character because this was years ago, I was tearing up and crying when talking about my Mima and Papi, also Cuban, middle class, upper middle class lifestyle, got the heck out of Cuba right before Castro's communist regime took over, went from an upper middle class lifestyle, Mima, Papi, and my mom, and headed to Miami and then Naples, Florida. And they went from a life of disposable income in Cuba to Miami and Naples, where Papi was a ditch digger, he was a barber, he worked for whatever he could do, and Mima was a hotel maid. Mima and Papi outlived Mima. Papi died with 20,000 literally to his name. That's it. Gave 10K to my brother, 10K to me, only to be used for UVA college tuition.
Wow.
We could not spend the money. It could only be allocated to tuition for college. My mom went as far as a 2-year community college degree and was the manager of tellers at a bank before she met my father, a CPA who worked for now defunct Arthur Anderson, who was traveling up and down the East Coast, working alongside banks, essentially auditing banks, and had to work with my mom. 3 weeks later, after meeting her, proposed to her. They had one chaperone date, kissed one time, and after 3
Whirlwind
weeks
romance.
of meeting her, proposed.
Wow.
And if you are raised in, it sounds like you undoubtedly are, in this family environment that appreciates hardship and sacrifice and champions stories of success that materialize through effort and through overcoming adversity, then those qualities undoubtedly pass to you and me, and we hope will continue to be passed on to our kids.
Exactly. It is. It's the immigrant story is one of hard work, perseverance, and oftentimes tied up in small business. It's so important, I think, to point out, because it's so easy to paint small business as rich people. He owns the business, he must be rich. Latinos start small businesses at 3 times the rate of native-born Americans. The small business is the means by which so many Latino immigrants come out of poverty to be able to make something for their families. And they don't start off rich. Your grandparents didn't when they came here. My grandparents didn't when they came here. Latino immigrants don't come to this country with $2 million in their pocket that they then put into a small business. The only thing they put into a small business is sweat. They put sweat, they put perseverance, they put family into it, and that is the means by which we attain success and provide for our families. And so small business isn't a rich people thing. Small business is an immigrant story. Small business is a people of color story. Small businesses, one of the lost pieces of American history was that period between Reconstruction at the end of the Civil War and basically the emergence of Jim Crow laws, where the African American population became one of the most powerful small business sectors in the entire country. They built from scratch entire towns. We'll often hear, you often hear the stories of how in Jim Crow they would raise towns and they would destroy. And yes, you can sit there and mourn the tragedy and the horror that they did.
Vinegar Hill.
But you have to sit there and say, the only reason they had to destroy Vinegar Hill was because Vinegar Hill was so successful in the first place.
Right.
Look what they built. And that is the means by which so many people can attain success, and small business is how that happens. So you have to value it and support it, not trivialize it or demonize it.
Dude is amazing. Alex Urpí, CEO, Emergent Financial Services. Joanne Mackey. Alex is also a CFA, just like her. She's an economist. She said, get colleges to get some of their skin in the game to make it affordable. Student loans are private and federal. Colleges never fully disclose the terms of what this education will cost and the course of study a student may have to undertake to repay the loans. And then she references Tulsa, Black Wall Street. Tulsa. Joanne Mackey, Queen of Keswick, you make this program better routinely. Multiple people are sharing their stories, their immigrant journeys on the feed, literally on the show right now. I love this show. I got fired up to start. I just don't like the putting down of people for hard work and their allocation of revenue, how they see fit, because they earned it. Thursday at 10:15 a.m., today y mañana. Alex, Urpi, what do we got cooking?
So we have a combination, speaking of small business owner, as well as a local nonprofit that's doing some great work. So we're going to have on Jeff Camrat, the owner of I Love CVille Hand Car Wash.
Love Jeff.
Great guy. He loves talking entrepreneurship, so we're going to talk some of that with him, just his thoughts on being a small business owner, what it's like. And with Jeff, the beauty is that we can go anywhere. The man just loves talking entrepreneurship, so who knows where the conversation will go. I can't even predict it. And then we're also going to have on Sarah Bon Harper, so she's the executive director of James Monroe Highland, right here. So, and I love that spot. It's a beautiful place. And so we'll talk a little bit about that, why you should go see it, the things to do there. I didn't even know there were, I don't know if you noticed, did you know there are public trails that you can walk at Highland?
I did not.
I always thought, like, okay, you need the ticket, go on the grounds. There are public trails that you can walk. They're beautiful.
I did not know that. I did not know that. Close on this, and I know this is tough to do in 4 minutes. We have the traditional 1:45 here, but we have time here, 1:37. I wanted to leave time for this. That's why I asked the Today Mañana early instead of last, so we can have ample time to highlight it. His show with Xavier Urpí is Thursdays at 10:15 a.m. on this network. Thursdays at 10:15 a.m. Alex and Xavier, presented by Emergent Financial Services. The show is called Today y Mañana. It is must-watch content. It is dynamite. I would like to give about 4 minutes or so, show's completely yours, Russia, Ukraine, and what you're seeing, not from a political strategist standpoint or from a United Nations standpoint, strictly from how it impacts the country, Virginia, in the Charlottesville area.
So our impact here, it's a great question, is going to be, I think, mostly economic, right? Because let's face it, we are far removed from the geopolitical and humanitarian consequences there. So what you're looking at here, the number one concern is, of course, going to be oil prices. We still purchase a lot of oil from Russia. A lot of gas comes from Russia, even in the United States. And of course, any potential, so far, sanctions have not hit the energy. The energy sector of Russia has been exempted from, as an example, SWIFT bans and other types of sanctions. If that were to change, I think the oil is a little spooked today. I think it's hitting 105 today, dollars a barrel. So that can push up oil prices. The threat, the fear of sanctions on energy, the fear of some kind of disruption, because a significant amount of oil, both to Western Europe and to the United States, comes from Russia. There's no getting around that. And unfortunately, we are not pumping as we were several years ago. So we have to that has to be made up somehow. And right now, part of that's being made up by buying from Russia. In terms of other situations, obviously energy impacts inflation. We're already seeing some of that. The market is getting spooked a little bit by this, but as we know, part of the challenge, as we've talked about, is sort of that dichotomy we see now between Wall Street and Main Street, where, I mean, the first day of the invasion, Wall Street closes up 3%. And you sit there and say, Main Street cannot be looking at this as a good thing. How does Wall Street close up 3%? Wall Street's probably looking Federal Reserve, maybe they won't raise rates. Wall Street's probably looking, hey, it crashed this morning, let me buy some. So there's so many factors that come into play in Wall Street that it's its own animal at this point. But in terms of impact here, really energy is going to be your big one. Inflation as a secondary impact of that. And those are going to be your major impacts, because supply chain wise, we don't get too much. We don't import too much from Russia that's significant, apart from oil. Obviously, you've got vodka, but that's a different question entirely.
So, volatility on the horizon, inflation driver, because oil is associated with everything. in the economy.
It has anything to get from point A to point B. At some point, it's either going to be on ships that run on oil, or it's going to be on trucks that run on fuel.
This guy's A-plus people. Mrs. Urpi, you did well by these guys. Same with you, Xavier. Alex Urpi, CEO of Emergent Financial Services. Emergent Financial Services. The URL, Alex Urpi?
Emergentfs.com. Emergentfs.com. And I would add one quick thing, because I know we talk bad news sometimes with these things. These volatile, they're not really black swans, because it's not unexpected. You could see this coming for weeks before it happened. But these kind of volatile geopolitical events, yes, they can get you down, but the key is always, as we repeat, not to panic. Right? There are always repercussions that will happen, but at some point you've got to have faith in the long-term trajectory of humanity. Right? And I think there's providence involved there too, but you got to have some faith. You got to look at things and say the worst thing you can do is try to sell, just panic, sell, go into cash. Because if inflation hits, you do not want to be in cash, right? And as much as you be getting hit now, as long as you do not sell, right, you're still participating in, look, that's the crazy part, right? We've talked sometimes before how you don't want to miss those big days in the market. Can you imagine what would have happened to your portfolio if you had sold the day before Russia invades Ukraine? Right? You would be sitting on a massive loss from the weeks preceding that and lose out on, I think, one of the biggest upside days of this year, which you would think is theoretically absurd. If I sit there and said, Jerry, you're going to want to be in the market on the day that Russia invades Ukraine, you'd be, Alex, you're nuts. But for reasons that are beyond explanation, that's a 3%. 3% day is very rare in the markets. So you need to be participating in there so that even though the market is unpredictable and beyond our control, you are at least in there, and whatever happens, you're participating in those upsides as they occur and in the long term. Remember, it's a long-term game, and you just want to be in a good, safe position for when you retire. It's not about trying to make $1 million in a day.
Well said. You killed it today, per usual.
Oh, thank you.
Seriously.
Appreciate it. Love
Thank
being
you.
on.
Thank you. We love having you on. Alex Urpi, guys, CEO of Emergent Financial Services. Watch his show that he co-hosts with Xavier Urpi on Thursdays at 10:15 a.m. on the I Love CVille Network. This show is called the I Love CVille Show, where we shoot it straight, and we will shoot it straight even if it is a topic that may be uncomfortable, but that's what we're going to do. We are going to be true to who we are, regardless if it's popular or unpopular. I can't say it any more straightforward than that. Judah Wickower, if you go to the two-shot and give us your signature sign-off, or at least, Judah doesn't always like this. Yeah, I really like the signature sign-off, Judah Wickower. Or you can do whatever you want, Judah. You don't have to give him the signature sign-off.
This is new for me. I don't think I've seen it.
Have you seen the signature sign-off?
I don't think I've seen it before.
This is the signature. Do it. Come on.
All right. That is the news.
There we go. The signature sign-off right there. My name is Jerry Miller, and this is the I Love CVille Show. We will see you tomorrow on Wednesday. Take care, everyone. Bravo, Alex.
Oh, thank you.